very good morning. Welcome to a new episode of Melt. I'm Ritvika Gupta. The global pandemic has brought about a multitude of challenges for retailers that now have to cater to customers impacted by COVID-19. Businesses have shifted online, leading to digitizing almost all aspects of work, including customer experience. This includes reinventing both online and offline retail experiences for customers. The new CX Plus study released by Kantar assesses retailers based on a unique combination of their customer experience scores. The study identifies each retailer's experience gap, which quantifies the difference between their brand promise and the actual customer experience delivered. To find out how retailers need to navigate customer experiences in the COVID and post-COVID world, Anant Rangaswami, editor of Melt, speaks to Sushmita Balasubramaniam, Customer Experience and Commerce Domain Lead, South Asia Insights Division at Kantar. But before that, here are some key findings from the report. 82% of millennials in India said that they prefer to spend money on experiences than on material things. 91% of CEOs believe customer centricity is essential to driving business growth. 37% of Indian customers rate their brands as truly customer-centric. A brand coherence happens when brand promise meets customer experience. The customer experience performance score is calculated as the means of 5 key success factors: a clear brand promise, empowered employees, empowered customers, lasting moments, reinforcing brand choice. In grocery retail, retailers that lead in the CX Plus index are 1.4 times more likely to be recommended than those at the lower end of the index. The likelihood of customers remaining loyal to them increases by 1.6 times. In fashion, retailers that lead in the CX Plus index are 1.5 times more likely to be recommended, and the likelihood of customers remaining loyal to them increases by 1.6 times. In general retail, retailers that lead in the CX Plus index are 1.6 times more likely to be recommended than those at the lower end of the index. The possibility of customers remaining loyal to them increases by 2.2 times. Now let us quickly dive into the conversation and understand more. As we are still working from home, you might hear a bit of construction noise during the interview. We apologize for the disturbance. Let's get ready to melt with Sushmita Balasubramaniam.
Sushmita, good to talk to you.
Talk to you too, Anand.
So let's start with your study, where let's say the headline of the study is that there is a brand and then there's a customer and there's a customer experience. And that there's a wonderful sweet spot where the brand and the customer path overlaps. And that is the sweet spot where the customer is delighted with the experience.
Right.
Now your study says there's a scientific way to arrive at that sweet spot. So first set up the problem and then tell me how retailers, whether in the fashion area or the general retail, can find that sweet spot of customer experience and delight.
Right. Okay. To explain what this sweet spot is, or what we call coherence, I just need to explain how we arrive at the CX Plus index a bit. See, there are 2 parts to the story. One is the customer experience itself, which is very critical for the business. But this is only one side of the story because it deals with your current customers. So these are, for instance, people who are currently walking into your store, who are buying from your store, and they're evaluating you on various parameters, which is very critical because you have to meet expectations. But then there is another side of the story, which is, especially when you talk about retail, there are people who are not visiting your store or shopping from your store currently. And these are potential customers. When we say potential customers, these are people who are not necessarily against your brand, but they have you in their consideration set, but they just haven't come to the store as yet. What happens is that there is a certain perception that they have about your brand on various parameters. And when they walk into that store, and that's the promise which will probably make them come into the store. When they walk into the store, the experience that they get needs to match their expectations. If that happens, then the sweet spot happens, because then you have an experience which is among current customers and you have a brand promise among potential customers which you have met. And when that happens, there is coherence. Because what happens when it doesn't happen? Then you have not only do you have a dissonance, there is a lot of dissonance, but also there is a very confused customer who says, listen, you're saying something to me, but when I walk into your store, I don't see that at all. So that's what the coherence is all about. So when there is coherence, there is magic, and then there is the completeness of the index.
Right. So now tell me, in your study, you say that there's a scientific and logical way for brands. Now, when we talk about brands in this entire program, we are talking about retailers as a brand.
That's right.
Outlets as a brand, not soap and toothpaste.
That's
so
right.
Tell me, how can somebody in charge of, say, a big bazaar or a high street store find the sweet spot by referring to your study?
Right. Okay. So if we were to take an example of a big bazaar or any other retailer today, see, the customer experience basically is measured on 5 pillars. Now, the customer experience, like I said, is among current customers. One is, do they have clarity on what your brand stands for? Right? I mean, are they clear about that? The second part of it is, I mean, they have employees, in this case, store staff, who are the contact for your customers. Now, are they carrying that brand promise right at the floor level? If that's happening, that means you have empowered employees. Third, is this brand clarity and the empowered employees, are they enabling you to have a shopping experience which is absolutely easy? So it may be, the fact that there could be an online presence, offline presence, which is seamless, or they're just making it easy for you to shop in their store. I mean, there are no pain points in that sense. So when that happens, then the next step is that there is a memory that is being built, and this memory has to be consistent. Every time I walk into a store, I should be able to have these kind of memories, and I should be able to take back these memories. And finally, when you have these lasting memories, that's when your brand or brand preference becomes very strong, which obviously, because it increases the loyalty of the customer. So all of these 5 pillars together is what makes your customer, is how you derive your customer experience. Now, when we come to the brand promise, there are customers who rate you on certain parameters, which is ease of online shopping, in-store staff, experience, whatever. And then there is the potential customers who rate you on the same aspects. Now, the ideal situation is that your customers should rate you better than what the potential customers are rating, because when that happens, when they walk into the store, the expectations are met, or in some cases exceeded, and that is the ideal situation. So when that happens and that's how the scores are derived. So if there is a retailer who's topping or who's emerging as the winner, it only means that retailer has not only given an excellent experience to his current customers, but also has high very good perceptions among potential customers, which will make them come. And when they come in, they will get the good experience, because that's what your customers are telling you. So that's how it is derived.
So, Sushmita, tell me, your study is sort of tackling the current consumer. What about the future consumer, or the consumer who's not shopping at your place? How does he or she get the story?
Right. The study actually covers both, Anand. Like I said, the CX index is derived basis experience of current customers and perceptions of potential customers. So if perceptions of potential customers are good, that's when your CX plus index gets higher. So the scores get higher.
Right.
So that's basically this is this index is unique, because I don't think there is any other index which measures your brand promise from potential customers and it brings it together with current customer experience. So that's why it's a bit unique.
Right. So this entire study was conducted pre-lockdown.
Right.
Yet there are some derivatives you are able to extend to the lockdown experience as well. So take me through that.
Yeah. See, this study was done in early 2020 when actually COVID had hit, but not in India, but people were aware. So there were, murmurings from other markets or whatever. But having said that, I mean, it was obviously in a state where things were not shut down and everything was functioning as normal. So we've got the scores, we've got the findings. What we have done is, post-lockdown, there are many studies that we have done, one of it is the COVID barometer, which is where we are measuring customer sentiments. Then we've also done a study among shoppers, which is in the unlock phase, to see how things have changed post the, when the unlock happened. So basis the findings of all these studies, we have given it a COVID lens. And I'll tell you what I mean. See, the thing is, the fact that experience is important is only, it's obvious. What the experience may be could have changed pre versus post COVID. But the fact is that it's probably even more important for retailers or brands to deliver on that experience today, because consumers or shoppers are facing the unknown. So for somebody who has never shopped online, if they have gone online, what is the kind of experience, what are the kind of reassurances that you are providing them, how are you hand-holding them to make that effort seamless? Those are things which are important. So the fact that customer experience has to deliver is something that won't change. But what it has to deliver is what needs to change. And that's when you need to look at what the current sentiments are in terms of whether there are anxiety levels among consumers, or whether, it is, we know from our studies, for instance, that the spend levels have come down across many categories, and they're basically focusing on essentials. And even essentials, if you're talking about personal care or talking about hygiene, you're talking about home hygiene, there is a tendency to downgrade what you have been using. So we have to work in that context. And if we have to work in that context, what should retailers do today to sort of address shopper needs? And that's what it is about.
Sushmita, the starting point for success using your study is that the retailer needs to understand what the expectations are. It's only if I know the expectations, I can meet or exceed. So right. What do you do to help the retailer understand the expectations of the consumer?
The study is a fairly detailed one where we ask them to rate various retailers on various parameters. And there is also questions related to what is it that they're looking for when they go into a store. So when you marry the data, where you're looking at customer expectations and you look at how retailers are delivering currently today, then you know where the gaps are, and you know what is it. If there are people who are rating better, you know what are the things which is driving that experience, which are the more important factors. For instance, like I said, the one very important for big box retailers like Amazon, Flipkart, or a DMart or a Big Bazaar is the need for customer to be able to make their shopping journey seamlessly. I mean, it has to be easy, and it's only understood because they have so many product categories. So to help a customer navigate through that journey is something that the retailer has to make it easy. So that is one of the key expectations. The other key expectation, for instance, is, the employees or the store staff play play a huge role. And the reason I'm saying this is a surprise is because we basically went to an online audience, an internet active audience. And, one would have thought that the human element is probably less important for these kind of people, but no, it's not. These are typically customers who not only buy low value items, they also buy high value, high ticket items like your washing machine, dishwashers, whatever. So there is a expectation which is right from the beginning in terms of sort of educating on what the product is, or what the benefits are, right up to delivery, installation, customer support, handling of these any issues or complaints that may arise. So that's when the human element comes in. So these two things are very important for a general retailer.
Sushmita, this study was conducted across the world, and
yes.
There was a reason that we chose at MELT to talk to the India champion of the study and not to a global champion, because we thought there would be some peculiarities in the India study. For example, right. The Kirana Dukan and so on and so forth.
Right.
So can you give me highlights of the India study which were out of sync with the global study? Okay.
All the things that I'm telling you now, it's a very India phenomenon. The fact that, the ease of shopping and the fact that employees are very important is something which is very specific to India. Even for grocery stores, the human element is very important. And there is a reason why. we all know that the kirana is a very, the kind of relationship that the kirana has with the customer is goes back many years. And the kirana came back very strong during the lockdown because they were the lifesavers for many shoppers who couldn't go to a modern retail store, or were faced with stock out situations in the online thing. So that's when these guys came to help. So if you look at the future of retail, Anant, I mean, it's probably to be expected that shoppers will slowly go back to what they were shopping, where they were shopping from. They will go back to modern trade. They will go back to online. They may not, but there will be some behaviors that will stay. The kirana is not somebody that they will forget very easily. So it is in the it benefits other retailers and the online retailers to use the kirana as a physical reach, because he's somebody who can actually go to every corner of the city. So in the ecosystem has to bring in the kiranas as a very important component.
Now tell me, I can understand all that your study says about the brick and mortar retail. Now, the e-commerce retail, tell me, what are the uniqueness of the facets in the e-com retail, which strike you as being peculiar to India?
Okay. In this case, actually, it is not so much peculiar to India, because I think online shoppers tend to be homogeneous everywhere. But there is one very interesting thing which has come up, which is very different in India vis-a-vis what it is globally. In India, the online retailers have actually come up as winners in all categories, whereas it's not necessarily so in the global scenario. Global scenario, actually, the more the local retailers or the for instance, in fashion, it's Lululemon which has come up as the winner, whereas in India scenario, it is Amazon. So that's something which is very different. But apart from that, the expectations that they have on what they want from an online retailer is pretty similar to what you see globally. I mean, there is convenience, there is the ability to returns. Returns is a huge thing in India, and especially in the current scenario where people are not able to go out and shop, so they want easy return, which is very important. So that's something which may be different from the global scenario, but otherwise, the ease of shopping, the ability to seamlessly go through, various products, compare, all of that is something which is
right,
common.
So, Sushmita, to say customer experience is important is like a no-brainer. We could have said that 50 years ago without anything. Now, what is it that your study shows which highlights the fact that retailers are actually ignoring the fact that customer services or customer experience is important? Is that happening?
In some retailers, yes, because the fact that there's a huge gap between people who have emerged as winners versus those who have not, says there is something. And I'll tell you a very simple reason why this is happening. I think retailers probably didn't, realize the importance of a digital presence. The next thing is, it's not enough to be just omni-channel. When I say physical and digital presence, yes, there is. I can be online, I can be offline, but is that going to be enough for the future? Not really. The important thing is to offer what we call the integrated retail or the harmonized retail, which allows you to shop anywhere. But if I want to return something, I should be able to go into the store and dump it there and say that I bought it, I don't want it. That's the kind of, it doesn't really matter where I shop. And also they must realize that the customer is the starting point. I, as a customer, decide where I want to shop. I might want to shop online, offline, on social media, whatever. But the retailer has to be present wherever I hang out, whether it is physical or virtually, and make those points shoppable, where I say, okay, I see this thing, right? I'm interested. Can I shop here? And I should be able to immediately convert. That is what is going to determine who is going to win in the future.
So tell me, on ground, we spoke about the experience, and there's a lot of human interaction on ground. In the digital space, on the e-commerce space, share with me what you've learned about user experience there. Because there are no humans, there are just buttons to press and and left arrows and right arrows and so on.
Absolutely. This is an interesting question, because we've also dwelled deep into this and saying how do you explain this human element, because if people are emerging winners, they are rating well on the personalized experience also. I think the user interface itself, which sort of makes you feel like you're talking to a person on the other side. So it may be through a chatbot, which is very, it's passive right now. But, the very ease of being able to, navigate my way through the online site. And if there is a problem, I should be able to hit the support button and get my queries answered immediately. If people are able to do that, I think that's what we're talking about, personal experience. And you also have, banks do this very well. If I have a problem, then I just have to either call a number or send a message saying I need this I need to be spoken to, and they call you back. I think Amazon also does this very well. So this is the kind of personalized experience that one actually looks for, and that human element can be brought in even in a digital space.
So in the last few years, we've seen thousands of retailers launching apps,
right?
Almost like it's ticking a box, that is, let us launch an app. And they go to, shall we say, a small digital shop and say, make an app for me. And they don't apply their mind to UI UX, which they do in a brick and mortar space. You want to see that an assistant can help a customer. In a digital space, they just say, make an app, thinking that app will do everything. So should retailers pay more attention to the UI UX of an app?
Obviously, of course. Otherwise, it's not that we won't get the kind of integrated retail that I was talking about earlier. Then it's all about, you can shop for me online, you can shop for me offline, and then that's it.
So tell me how they replicate the same experience online and offline. If you can give me an example of a retailer who scores similarly in the brick and mortar experience and the digital experience.
Okay. As of now, we don't have anybody who scores very well, because I think we are still in a stage where there are online retailers and there are offline retailers. But if you look at some of the ratings that the winners have got, they don't rate too badly on the in-store experience, because I think there is they have reached out, or they have third-party tie-ups which offer that support. But as of now in India, we don't have anybody who's offering that complete integrated retail, which is probably the need of the hour.
Right. So the last question before we wrap up for today is, I want to ask you, the experience that customers in India have with their online shopping, does that compare with the experience that customers in the rest of the markets have? Does that compare well or badly?
I think that if you're looking at the people who are the top thing, yes, it is fairly similar, the kind of experience that they have. The Indian consumers also tend to be a little kinder.
Right.
If you look at the ratings for the same kind of online retailers that we are speaking about here, it will not be as good globally.
Right.
But in India, it is better, and I think it's just more because they're still learning, and they're still discovering online. We have a lot of, especially in the last few months, we have a lot of first-time online shoppers. So I think we are still in the early stages in that sense. The curve has not yet reached the peak or whatever. So we are still okay. But that's not going to be enough in the future, because customers will evolve, and there will be a set of customers who will be more evolved than the rest, who can actually pull you down if you don't deliver.
Thank you so much. A wonderful conversation, and all the best for your study. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you. Pleasure.
And that was Sushmita Balasubramaniam telling us how retailers can navigate customer experiences. Let's take a look at the Mel cheat sheet. Retailers need to make shopping journeys easier for all customers. Understanding human behavior is critical for designing a good retail customer experience. Retailers should aim to offer an integrated or harmonized platform which allows consumers to shop from anywhere. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of Melt. Do follow us on social media. Our handle is Ready to Melt. You can also stay informed on what's happening in the world of advertising and marketing with our daily Melt update on our website, readytomelt.com. And I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.